Deion Sanders didn't mince words. He looked straight into the camera, leaned forward, and said it with that calm but deadly cadence only Coach Prime can pull off. Stop lying about my son. Stop using his name to push your stories. Stop trying to control something you don't own. That right there was a spark. The line that set social media ablaze, that got every podcast host typing in all caps, and that made every NFL media insider shift in their chair a little uncomfortably.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Because Deion wasn't just offending Shedeur Sanders. He was throwing a grenade right into the middle of the NFL media machine, exposing the way they manipulate narratives to serve the league and themselves. Now, let's unpack why this hits so hard. We all know how the NFL media works, or at least we think we do. Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, and all the other insiders are treated like the ultimate sources of truth. They drop a tweet, and it immediately becomes gospel. Sources say, has more weight than the actual players' voices sometimes. And that's the point. These insiders aren't just reporting what's happening. They're part of a system, one designed to protect the shield, shape perception, and yes, sometimes sacrifice players in the process. Deion Sanders knows this game. He lived it, back when he was prime time, the flashy corner who redefined swagger. He was the one being called arrogant, selfish, too much. He saw how narratives could be twisted, how reputations could be weaponized, how the league loved a good villain, as long as the villain sold tickets. But this time, it's not him, it's Shedeur. And a father can stay quiet about himself, but he won't stay quiet when it's a son being dragged. The so-called reports are the perfect example. One day, Shedeur is linked to interest from big-name teams like the Ravens and the Eagles. The next, suspiciously timed stories come out about those very teams supposedly not being interested, or about Shedeur having preferences that make him seem entitled. Convenient, right? Almost like someone somewhere wanted to create a certain perception. Almost like someone knew that fans and teams would latch onto those headlines, no matter how flimsy they were. And let's be honest, this isn't about truth. It's about timing. Why do these leaks drop when they do? Why do whispers about entitlement or attitude surface right before draft hype heats up? Because it's strategic. Because it's designed to shape public opinion before the player even has a chance to prove himself. It's not journalism, it's chess. And Shedeur is the pawn being moved around the board. But here's where it gets even more insidious. This isn't just about one player. What Deion is exposing is a much bigger system. A system where the NFL's brand comes first. Always. Where protecting the shield matters more than fairness, more than truth, more than letting players control their own narratives. Where stories are twisted not for accuracy, but for engagement. Where player reputations are managed like stock prices, bought low, sold high, manipulated for maximum profit. And Shedeur Sanders? He's a direct threat to that system. Why? Because he doesn't need the league to build him up. He's already a star. His name already carries weight. His story is already compelling. He's already media trained, already marketable, already the son of a legend who knows how to navigate the spotlight. He doesn't walk into the draft as a blank canvas for the NFL to paint on. He walks in already holding the brush. That's terrifying for a league obsessed with control. So what do? They undermine. They leak. They frame confidence as arrogance. They spin polish as too polished. They turn independence into entitlement. And slowly but surely, they try to chip away at a player who hasn't even thrown his first NFL pass yet. But Deion Sanders isn't having it. He's calling it what it is. Manipulation. He's saying out loud what players have whispered about for years, that the NFL and its media partners don't just tell stories. They create them. They plant them. They release them with precision timing. And they don't care if it ruins a player's reputation, as long as it benefits the league. Think about the ripple effects here. When Schefter drops a sources say tweet about Shedeur, it doesn't just disappear. It gets quoted in articles. It gets dissected on talk shows. It gets repeated by fans until it becomes truth. And by the time draft day rolls around, Shedeur isn't just fighting for his position on the board. He's fighting against an image someone else created for him. And for what? For clicks, for leverage, for control. But here's the part the NFL can't control. The game. You can smear Shedeur all you want, but the tape doesn't lie. You can twist his confidence into cockiness. But the poise he showed behind one of the weakest offensive lines in college football speaks louder than any headline. You can call him entitled. But the way he carried himself through pressure, through adversity, through endless criticism shows maturity beyond his years. That's why Deion is so loud right now. Because he knows Shedeur doesn't need defending on the field. He's got that covered. What he needs defending from is the machine. The leaks, the whispers, the strategic smears designed to protect the shield and diminish the player. And this isn't just about Shedeur. This is about every player who's ever had their career shaped by a narrative they didn't create. This is about Warren Sapp sliding in the draft because of sudden character concerns. About Lamar Jackson being told to switch positions. About Cam Newton being criticized for smiling too much. The playbook doesn't change. The names do. But here's the twist. Shedeur isn't walking into this blind. He's been prepared for this since day one. He's grown up watching how the media works. He's been coached not just by Deion the Hall of Famer, but by Deion the media master. He knows how to carry himself, how to block out the noise, how to focus on the one thing the NFL can't manipulate, the game. And that's why this smear campaign, as slick as it may be, is ultimately doomed to fail. Because when Shedeur gets on that field, when he starts delivering passes with the same calm precision he's always shown, when he starts winning games, none of this noise will matter. The whispers will fade. The leaks will look ridiculous. The narrative will collapse under the weight of reality. The NFL can control a lot, but it can't control the scoreboard. So yes, Deion Sanders is angry. Yes, he's exposing the lies. Yes, he's putting Adam Schefter and the rest of the insiders on blast. But more than that, he's reminding us all not to be fooled. Not to take every headline at face value. Not to let the machine write the story when the player himself is living it in real time. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't entitled. He isn't arrogant. He isn't some overhyped storyline. He's a quarterback who has earned everything, who has battled through more than most prospects, who has faced pressure from every angle and come out stronger. He's ready. And no leak, no whisper, no manipulation can change that. So the next time you see a headline about Shedeur, ask yourself, who benefits? Who gains from this story? Because the answer probably isn't Shedeur, it's the league. It's the insiders. It's the machine. But the machine doesn't win games. Players do. And Shedeur Sanders is a player. A damn good one. And when he steps on that NFL field, when he silences the critics the only way that matters, with wins, all of this will be remembered for what it really was. Lies. Strategic. Calculated lies designed to serve the shield. Lies that couldn't stand up to the truth. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Deion Sanders is right? Do you believe the NFL media is deliberately trying to undermine Shedeur? Or do you think this is just business as usual? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this is a conversation that needs to happen. And if you're tired of being spoon-fed the NFL script, if you want the truth behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe. Because while the league keeps playing its game, we'll be right here reminding you. The media might lie, but the game never does. Deion Sanders' words weren't just a father's rant. They were a warning shot. When he said, "Stop lying about my son," that wasn't just about Shedeur. It was about every single player who's ever had their reputation twisted by the NFL's media machine. And the more you think about it, the more you realize just how massive this problem really is. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The NFL doesn't just sell football games. It sells stories. It sells drama. It sells heroes and villains, underdogs and busts. And to keep those stories juicy, the league has mastered the art of controlling the narrative. Insiders like Adam Schefter, they're not just reporters. They're distributors of carefully packaged storylines. They tell us what the league wants us to hear, when the league wants us to hear it. So when Deion Sanders looks at the timing of these Shedeur headlines and says, "This is deliberate," he's absolutely right. Think about it. One minute you're hearing about how Shedeur could be a top pick, how teams like the Ravens and Eagles might be in play. The next minute, boom, reports drop saying those exact same teams aren't interested. Or that Shedeur has preferences about where he wants to play. As if a rookie quarterback has the power to dictate destinations before the draft. That contradiction doesn't happen by accident. That's not sloppy reporting. That's strategy. The league doesn't want Shedeur Sanders walking into the NFL as a guy who already owns his name, his image, and his story. Because that makes him uncontrollable. That makes him bigger than the shield. And if there's one thing the NFL hates, it's a player who doesn't need them to be relevant. So they twist it. They leak it. They frame him as entitled instead of confident, arrogant instead of polished, risky instead of ready. And they do it with surgical precision, at the exact moments that will hurt him the most. Now, let's step back and really look at how calculated this all is. Why drop negative reports right before the draft buzz peaks? Because that's when fans, teams, and executives are paying the most attention. Why frame Shedeur as unworthy or entitled? Because it lowers his stock, gives teams leverage, and makes it easier to justify passing on him, or even better, scooping him up at a discount. It's not just about perception. It's about money. It's about control. And here's the thing. We've seen this movie before. Warren Sapp, one of the greatest offensive tackles of all time, saw his draft stock tumble because of character concerns leaked right before draft day. Lamar Jackson, a Heisman-winning quarterback, was told to switch positions despite having better numbers than half the prospects in his class. Cam Newton, dragged for smiling too much, as if joy was a red flag. Different players, different decades, same playbook. And now Shedeur Sanders is the latest target. But here's where the NFL may have miscalculated. Shedeur isn't walking into this unprepared. He's not some wide-eyed rookie who doesn't understand how the media works. He's been watching this circus since the day he was born. He's been learning from Deion, the master of narrative, the man who turned himself into a brand before branding was even a word in sports. Shedeur knows the game. He knows how to stand tall in the spotlight, how to stay calm under pressure, how to tune out the noise and let his play do the talking. And that's exactly why Deion is so protective right now, because he knows Shedeur doesn't need help on the field. He needs protection from the off-field spin cycle. Let's be real. Shedeur's college career speaks for itself. He played behind one of the worst offensive lines in major football, and he didn't crack. Week after week, he was chased, sacked, hit, and pressured, and still delivered NFL-caliber throws. That's not hype. That's resilience. That's maturity. That's exactly what you want in a quarterback. But instead of talking about that, the headlines talk about attitude. Instead of praising his poise, they question his polish. Instead of acknowledging his talent, they speculate about preferences. None of that is analysis. It's narrative. And Deion is right to call it out. Here's where things get even more sinister. This isn't just about Shedeur's draft position. This is about protecting the NFL's business model. The league thrives on the idea that the shield is always bigger than the player. That no matter how great you are, you owe your relevance to the NFL, not the other way around. But Shedeur represents a direct threat to that. Because if Shedeur comes into the league already a star, already branded, already marketable, already with his own spotlight, the NFL loses some of that control. They can't build him. They can't sell the story of the league, creating a new face of football. He's already built, and that makes him dangerous. So what do? They attack his reputation before he even arrives. They plant doubt in the minds of fans, in the minds of executives, in the minds of sponsors. They try to make sure Shedeur doesn't walk in too powerful, too independent, too big for them to manage. But here's what they can't change. The game. The NFL can manipulate headlines, but it can't manipulate tape. It can spin confidence as arrogance, but it can't erase the throws Shedeur made under pressure. It can call him entitled, but it can't erase the leadership he's shown in every huddle. The game doesn't lie, and Shedeur Sanders has already proven he belongs. That's why Deion's words hit so hard, because he's not just protecting his son, he's pulling back the curtain on the entire system. He's telling fans, don't believe every leak, don't swallow every Schefter tweet. Question the timing, question the motive, ask who benefits. And you know what? He's right. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about Shedeur Sanders being entitled or not ready. It's about power. It's about a league that wants to control its stories, protect its brand, and maximize its revenue, even if it means sacrificing the truth. But Shedeur doesn't need their narrative. He's got his own. And when he steps onto that NFL field, when he starts winning games, when he proves, like so many of us already know, that he's the real deal, the lies will collapse. The manipulation will be exposed. And the only thing left will be the truth, that Shedeur Sanders is exactly what he's always been, ready. So let the insiders talk. Let the whispers spread. Let the league play its games. Because when the dust settles, when the ball is snapped, when Shedeur drops back and delivers, the truth will speak louder than any headline. And maybe, just maybe, this time the league won't be able to bury it. Coach Prime's voice cut through the noise like a siren when he said, "Stop lying about my son." And here's the thing. It wasn't just about defending Shedeur. It was about exposing the system. It was about putting the spotlight not on Shedeur's so-called attitude or preferences, but on the shady backroom tactics that turn young players into pawns before they ever take an NFL snap. Let's start with the obvious, Adam Schefter. Now, I'm not here to tell you Schefter is a bad guy, but let's be real. He's not just some neutral dude with a phone full of magical sources. He's a megaphone used by the league, by teams, by agents, and by whoever has the most to gain from shaping a story at just the right time. He doesn't just report news. He delivers it like a weapon. And when the name Shedeur Sanders shows up in one of his tweets, you know somebody somewhere wanted that message out in the world. And isn't it funny how those messages always seem to come at the perfect moment? Shedeur's draft buzz starts climbing. Suddenly, there's a leak about the Ravens or the Eagles not being interested. Colorado has a tough game. Suddenly, whispers about Shedeur being overhyped make the rounds. Draft chatter is its peak. Boom. An anonymous source hints that Shedeur has preferences about which teams he wants. It's not random. It's orchestrated. It's a drip, drip, drip of doubt. Time to shape perception before Shedeur even has a chance to step up to the mic and defend himself. And that's the game. Because perception matters in the NFL. A single narrative, repeated often enough, becomes truth in the eyes of fans, media, and even executives. Suddenly, a confident young quarterback isn't poised, he's cocky. Suddenly, a polished communicator isn't professional, he's entitled. The words change, the meaning shifts, and just like that, a reputation is rewritten. Deion Sanders knows this game better than anyone. He was a flashy, unapologetic superstar who had the media calling him selfish when he was really just ahead of his time. He's seen firsthand how narratives can be spun to diminish players who don't fit neatly into the league's preferred mold. And now, watching Shedeur get run through the same cycle, he's not biting his tongue. Because this isn't just about Shedeur's draft stock. It's about something bigger. It's about the NFL protecting its brand. Here's the thing. The league thrives on being the ultimate kingmaker. You don't become a star without the shield. The NFL builds you up, packages you, sells you, and in return, you play your role. But Shedeur Sanders doesn't need them for that. He's already a star. His name already carries weight. He's already got the brand, the spotlight, the confidence, the poise. He doesn't need the shield to validate him. And that is a threat, because if Shedeur walks into the league already polished, already commanding attention, already owning his story, then what happens to the NFL's grip on the narrative? They lose a little bit of control. And the NFL does not like losing control. So the machine cranks up, negative leaks, convenient sources, carefully framed headlines that turn strengths into weaknesses. Confidence becomes arrogance. Independence becomes entitlement. A young man ready to lead becomes a question mark. It's not analysis. It's sabotage. And fans eat it up, because how can you not? When Schefter tweets something, it gets picked up by ESPN, Bleacher Report, every podcast, every blog. By the time it circulates, it's no longer a report. It's fact. And that's how players lose before they even step onto field. But here's the part the NFL didn't count on. Deion Sanders doesn't play by their rules. He never has. He's not afraid to call out the insiders, the league, the whole system. He's not afraid to put a spotlight on the strings being pulled. And when he says, "Stop lying about my son," he's not just talking to Schefter. He's talking to the entire machine. And here's where Shedeur is different from so many other players who've been caught in this cycle. He's ready for it. He's been living under the heaviest spotlight imaginable, being prime-time son for his entire life. He's been tested, doubted, and criticized more than most rookies will ever be. And through it all, he's stayed calm. He stayed composed. He stayed ready. Think about his college career. He played behind an offensive line that couldn't stop a gust of wind, let alone a defensive front, and still delivered NFL-caliber throws. He faced relentless pressure and never cracked. He kept his composure, kept his team in games, and showed the kind of poise you can't fake. That's not arrogance. That's maturity. That's not entitlement. That's leadership. And yet, instead of praising that, the headlines spin it into something negative. Why? Because that's what benefits the league. That's what keeps the shield bigger than the player. But here's the kicker. The NFL can manipulate headlines, but it can't manipulate tape. It can't rewrite what Shedeur does on the field. It can't erase the throws, the leadership, the resilience. The game doesn't lie. And when Shedeur hits the NFL stage, when he starts winning games, when he starts proving that he belongs, all the whispers will fade. That's why Deion is pushing back so hard. Because he knows Shedeur doesn't need defending between the lines. He needs defending from the spin cycle outside of them. And you know what? This isn't just about Shedeur. This is about every player who's been run through the same machine. It's about Warren Sapp, Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, all the guys who saw their reputations twisted before they even got the chance to prove themselves. It's about the way the NFL uses media, not just to report, but to manipulate. But maybe this time is different. Maybe this time, the machine underestimated its opponent. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a quarterback prospect. He's the son of a man who's made a career out of beating the system. He's been trained for this, groomed for this, prepared for this. He knows how to let the noise fade and let the game speak. And when the game speaks, it will be louder than any Schefter tweet, louder than any anonymous source, louder than any headline. So let them talk, let them leak, let them spin, because in the end, the truth always wins. And the truth is this: Shedeur Sanders is ready. Ready for the NFL, ready for the spotlight, ready for the pressure, ready to prove every whisper wrong. And when that happens, when he steps onto the field and delivers, the NFL's manipulation will be exposed for what it always was: smoke and mirrors. So let me leave you with this. The next time you see a headline about Shedeur Sanders, don't just read it. Question it. Ask who benefits. Ask why it's being said now. Ask what the motive is. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not about truth. It's about control. And Shedeur Sanders? He's proof that the one thing the NFL can't control is the game itself. Now, what do you think? Do you buy into these insider reports? Or do you see them as deliberate attempts to manipulate perception? Do you think Deion's call-out was necessary? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear where you stand. And if you're tired of being fed the NFL script instead of the real story, hit that subscribe button. Because as long as the league keeps trying to spin lies about Shedeur Sanders, we'll be right here, pulling the curtain back and telling it straight. The media might twist, but the game never does.